my poor dad in my family, because they're all PhDs, right? Teachers. They thought salesmen were the scum of the earth. So when my poor dad, my rich dad said to me, you have to get a job in sales, I had to go against my poor dad again. Do you know what I mean? It's like the academic, the PhDs think salesmen are scum. So I went, oh my God, so I argued and bitched and moaned with my rich dad. And I said, I don't want to learn how to sell. I don't want to sell. Tell me something. Tell me what I can do. I'll go back to school. He says, you have to sell.
Well, in fact, we are all salespeople. Some sell products, others sell hours.
And so again, my poor dad was all upset because I became a salesman. So, I mean, that's the cultural difference between a rich man who is an entrepreneur and a poor man who is a PhD at schools.
Working with a formal contract and being an entrepreneur really have big differences when thinking about money.
It goes back to my decision to become a salesman. As my rich dad said to me, if you can't sell, you won't get laid. Well, if you can't sell, you shouldn't be an author, because I'm a best-selling author, and all the academic types like New York Times and the book companies and all this, they attack me.
Selling is a skill that many authors defend and say is essential to achieving wealth.
They say, you're not a good writer. I said, well, that's why I flunked out of high school, because I can't write. But it's not that I couldn't write, Vlad. The teacher did not like what I was writing. There's a difference.
I think one of the most important concepts in the book is that the rich dad feels that wealth is measured in time, whereas a poor dad feels that wealth is measured in money.
This is what he means when he says that wealth is in the way of thinking.
Okay, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out in 1997. You were 50 years old at the time. And like we had referenced throughout this interview, this was based on your biological father, who was the, quote, poor dad, and a friend of yours, your best friend's father, who was an entrepreneur, who was the rich dad. Now, when I did my research and so forth, a lot of people questioned whether this person actually existed, the rich dad.
This is indeed an intriguing question.
So did that person actually exist, or is this just a concept you came up with for the book?
No, I mean, I told you the story. I got court-martialed for lying. This is in 73 or 4. And so there really did exist a rich dad and a poor dad. Okay. And I went to ask my rich dad, I said, would you mind speaking out for me? And the family said no. And I want you to know something, Vlad. The rich don't tell people what they know. You know how many times I've met one of my best friends just sold his business for $2 billion. He and I started at Xerox together, by the way. And I asked him to come and speak at my company. He says, no. They don't want to tell people what they do. So there is a rich dad. When I asked him if he would help me, he says, no. So that's what really happened. And so I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then Oprah called. Then Trump called. And I don't know if you know if Trump is a real guy or not, but he's pretty real. And he says, what you write is absolutely the truth. So there's a lot of people will say Rich Dad doesn't exist. So be it.
Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.